famed author Clive Cussler.
The hero Dirk Pitt.
Move, you mother, move, move. Keep coming, you big, beautiful, rusty old floating palace, you. And for the first time in all the years he could remember, Pitt felt the trickle of warm tears on his cheeks.
Raise the Titanic. Episode 7. Men having emotions.
I can have my daytime beer now.
Oh, enjoy your daytime beer. I'm having a daytime Diet Coke.
No, Mom's driving you somewhere. Sorry, my kids are listening.
Perfect timing. That was perfect. Tell them bravo. Oh, Faceplant. The beer of good parenting.
It's I'm the best parent.
So, welcome everyone to the Cussler Hustlers. It's been a long time, but we're back.
It has, yeah. Behind the scenes, we just had a whole bunch of fun tech support, and I guess we skipped the banter because it's been so long.
No, we just said hello. I got to tell you, Ben, I am the worst person in the world.
We will go on 17 tangents during this episode because we always do.
Of course we will.
But I'm your co-host Hopper. That's your co-host Nancy.
Hi. Hello.
And we are closing in on the end of this freaking book.
No, we're not. Not even close.
Well, it all depends how many chapters we get through today. Between 7 and, 25.
Okay. Where did we're on 49?
So we ended the last episode. We're on chapter 48 now. I believe because we ended the last episode with Dirk Pitt and friends blowing the Titanic off the bottom of the ocean with high explosives.
Oh, yes. And Pitt had an emotion, like he felt something.
Oh my God.
He felt something.
He cried. Well, that was
his own tears, and he didn't know what that was.
Technically, he cries at the end of chapter 48, because I have, at the end, Pitt cries, because this is the only thing a man can shed a tear for.
That might be technically true. I wrote Pitt, at the end of my notes for chapter 48, Pitt had an emotion.
Like, a lot of stuff happens in this chapter, but I think it can really be summed up as God protect this rocket boat and all those who dwell within the rocket boat. Because they blow it off the bottom of the ocean, and it rises, and it gets up to 1,000 feet per minute, which is what an airplane's emergency dive speed is.
Oh.
And then blasts out of the ocean and almost falls over and then doesn't.
That would be like a terrifying thing to see. Just a 1,000 miles, that would... Wow. Okay.
Well,
that's
no, I guess
very fast.
Airplane diving is 100 feet per second, so that's 6,000 per minute. But still, you wouldn't imagine a boat rising from the bottom of the ocean going almost as fast as an airplane diving.
So, you're the science guy. How many things would break on the way up that weren't already broken?
That's so much of what they talk about in this chapter. Like, Clive Cussler fully breaks out, well, I guess not the conspiracy board, he breaks out his research board. Because he talks about how all the wet steel seals might break, the various hulls might explode, something they missed might pop, all the bulkheads and doors that are sealed might rupture. Like, a million things can go wrong.
1,001 things can go wrong. But in the meantime, they've raised it, but our character, Gene Seagram, who's having some emotional difficulties of his own.
Oh God, chapter 49.
Chapter 49. He's going to get real suicidal and real racist.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. This chapter appeared from a completely different book. What the hell was this chapter?
Gene Seagram goes to the park. He's got a gun. He doesn't know the Titanic has been successfully brought to the surface. So he's drowning in his own life choices. His wife has left him. His job is in shambles.
I had to go back and check. We haven't seen him for 3 episodes because he hasn't appeared in the book since the meeting with Sandecker, where he said that Dana was going to be in charge of dealing with the reporters.
Oh, it has been some time for him. So he just...
We haven't seen him for like 200 pages.
We have to assume, based on this chapter, he's been drinking.
Oh boy. Yes.
Whilst we were away.
And I guess we also haven't seen him since he was ordered to leak the Sicilian project to the Russians, like his life's work.
His life's work, he's really...
And I don't think he's gotten updates on anything. All he knows is Dana is working closely with Dirk Pitt, whom she describes as just the best person.
Yes. I once took a hostage negotiation seminar.
Tangent.
Yes, I was. This is a tangent. And it was the guy who unfortunately did Waco. The FBI agent who was the lead negotiator for the Waco. So he was real touchy about that. No questions there. None.
No one pays any attention to all the good things I negotiated. One thing goes wrong.
But he did say, his thing is, it's never one thing that goes wrong that makes a person lose their mind. It's two or more. They lose their job, their wife leaves them, their dog dies, their truck gets stolen, something like that. It has to be a cluster of events. So for Gene Seagram, it rings true. His job, his mission for a living, the Sicilian Project, which sounds like a great pizza. That should be a pizza joint name. And his wife are gone in his mind. So he's ossified. And I don't know about you, but I get lazier when I'm drunk. I haven't been drunk in a while. I miss it.
Oh, and he has been getting some updates, I guess, from the efforts to raise the Titanic. So he blames himself for the murder that took place on the submersible in the last episode.
Yes, he's got that.
So, he's pretty sure that because he leaked this to the Russian agents are now killing good American scientists.
And even one man is too many. His heart cannot bear it.
Yes.
And as every drunk person who's also suicidal, a cop comes by and he calls. The cop recognizes this is a man in trouble, and the cop is also a black police officer. So naturally, Seagram breaks out the N-word. Because you're drunk and suicidal, you have to be racist? What the fuck?
That was unexpected with the audiobook when he just drops the hard R like 3 times.
Holy kid, he did the hard R?
Yeah.
No.
It wasn't bleak.
If I was a voice professional,
N-word.
I'd be like, no.
Like, I've heard that in a lot of Stephen King audiobooks, because for a good portion of his career, Stephen King loved that word. But again, this chapter came from a completely different book. And like the cop is like acting the way a cop should in this situation. He's friendly, he's encouraging, he's asking what the issue is, he's talking about all the other things that Seagram, possibly does have to live for.
And you could tell it's 1980, it's the past, because he's not escalating. It's an American cop not escalating.
And once he's called an N-bomb a couple of times, he drops a horror story about his brain-dead uncle who tried to kill himself with a .38, but the bullet didn't do the job and left him a vegetable.
New tangent. My uncle-in-law, who's a brilliant doctor, brilliant. He's seen a lot of suicide attempts, and he thinks he doesn't want to see anyone in pain. So his heart goes out to anyone in pain, and he thinks you should be able to kill yourself. But he was like, there should be gear. There should be like a harness or like a head buckle system for you to put the gun in, so it's always going to be correct. He's like, because there's worse things than dying, and it's not dying fully.
I feel if you have to go through steps like that, it's either got to mess with you or it'll turn you off the whole thing.
Oh, well, or you're really into it. Like
Yeah.
If you go through with putting buckles, if you can't commit to the buckles, you don't really mean the suicide.
That's true. It is very all or nothing. That'll just filter out like a few more people who are on the edge and possibly not completely sure.
It'd be like a sorority rush week where they keep you drunk 24/7.
Not where I thought that would go, but okay. But then at the end, the cop kind of snaps at him. He's like, look at you, you're white. I can't do the accent the way the audiobook guy was doing it, but I think you could imagine.
Can you give us a taste? You're a professional. You have a lot to lose. So.
Nope. But anyway, the cop says, you probably have a nice job and a family. How would you like to be like me? A black cop with 6 kids in a 90-year-old house. And then the cop talks about all the great things happening in the world. And he ends with, and that thing the president said on TV just now. Like that big boat they just raised in the Atlantic.
This is all over the news. Give Officer Peter... What's his name? Peter Jones. He would know it was the Titanic. Come on. Just because...
It's been 9 months and $500 million. How is this not in the news cycle?
It's in the news cycle. The press is there. Dana's handling the press. He knows about it. He would know the name of the boat. He wouldn't be like, oh, that darn...
that big boat that President done raised. Just...
It was all... Chapter 49 was a ride.
The cop started off great. Like, he was charming and friendly and doing what you're supposed to do, like get close, use Seagram's name. And then they both just started like poking at each other, and each one kind of getting more and more pissed off. And eventually Seagram was like super convinced to kill himself. And then he heard that they raced the Titanic, and he just like hands the gun over and runs off.
I feel like it's still a crime in there somewhere. They'd get you for something. Like
illegal brandishing of a gun on a park bench.
Illegal disposal of a gun. I mean, can't just hand it to somebody, can you? Well, it's America, maybe.
He did give it to a cop. That might be the best place to deposit unused guns.
My older sister dated a cop once, and he forgot the gun in our bathroom. It happens to all cops. I was a terrible little sister, so I just picked it up and put it in the hamper. So when he went back to look for it, he had a panic attack, because that's what little sisters are for.
No, my dad never had to use his. He is somewhat proud of that fact.
He should be very proud of that fact. That's great. And hopefully he didn't drop any hard R's. That's good. That's a good career in law enforcement.
Yes. I don't think so. He wasn't that kind of guy.
That's good. They're not... Let's move on.
Yeah, this was about to get weird.
Chapter 50. Marganin tries to turn in Prevolov or set him up.
He's talking to Comrade Admiral Sloyev, who was, I guess, in charge.
Sloyuk. Sloyuk.
I have Sloyev.
S-L-O-Y. Oh, okay. I have no V. I have a K at the end.
Oh.
Interesting.
Well, maybe the audiobook guy might not be able to pronounce that. There's a couple of words he can't pronounce.
He's a voiceover guy. They could say anything. They could rhyme words with orange, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. But anyway, yes, Margonian is with the head of intelligence, dumping all the info he has on Prevolov to try and complete his master plan to backstab his way to the top.
And is this the first time we hear about the two sources he hearkens to about their code names, Silver and Gold? He won't release their real names. He's been working on them too long.
I think we got Silver and Gold in the last episode.
Oh,
because there was some mention that they had 2 Russian agents on the project, but that was it. It was just like a throwaway sentence.
Okay.
But they had 2 Russian agents working, like, who were, well, not really Russian agents. They had 2 Americans who they had, like, turned to their side, working on the project. And then one of them killed somebody on the Sappho.
And that mystery is still hanging in the air.
Yeah, we haven't gotten that one yet. We might get to that one, or most of that one, by the end of this episode, because there's a whole thing.
There's a lot. There's a... it kind of... One second.
Snowballs?
Raiders of the Lost Ark? This book kind of Raiders of the Lost Ark itself.
In what fashion? Do a lot of heads melt by the end?
They do a lot of work that doesn't have to be done.
Oh,
well, I'll save it to the end.
There are a lot of spy novels and thriller novels, and especially military novels. And I don't know if it's just part of the formula and you're not supposed to notice it. But if the main characters had stayed home and done nothing, things would have ended fine.
Yes.
And that was, like, I've never seen a better example than, have you ever heard of Jason Pargin?
Yes, I love Jason Pargin. I think he's very funny.
Excellent. Book 3, which I believe was, Book 2 was Full of Spiders. Book 3 was, what the hell did I just read?
Did that just come out?
In the John Dies at the End series. Book 4, if you're reading this, or if this book exists, you're in the wrong universe, just came out. Also awesome book. But Book 3, very specifically, if the main characters had ignored the call to action, stayed home and watched TV, everything would have been fine. And that's compounded by the fact that they almost explicitly state that everything that they told to you in the story is a lie, because what actually happened is even crazier and you'd never have believed it. These are some of my favorite books just for taking, like, the very concept of narrative and fucking with it till it makes no sense.
Do you know how sleep deprived I've been in reading this book over and over again just to, like, what? Why? What?
I just began my reread, so I just read John Dies at the End. I have to get this book is Full of Spiders from the library to keep going. But I own 1, 3, and 4, so I'm going to read them all the way through and see if it makes any more sense the second time. But they're delightful.
Then at the end of this, Sloyuk or Slovak rebukes Marganin and just tells him to go back pound sand.
Yeah, he's like,
you're shooting above your
evidence is crap. This is stupid. Knock it off.
This is not for him. He's trying to fight above his weight. Back off. Know your place. That's what Marganin gets told.
One line made me laugh, though, when Sloyev drops that the Titanic just got raised ahead of schedule. And Marganin's like, but our agent said it wouldn't be for another 72 hours. And Sloyev's like, oh, those Americans, always in a hurry.
Well, speed of plot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also being a few hours off in intelligence of that magnitude, that seems okay.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're in the ballpark, right? Horseshoes, hand grenades, everyone's a critic. Then we get to chapter 51 and the Titanic is up, baby. Al is on board.
This is also a long chapter, but I only have 2 sentences for it because virtually nothing happens.
It is long,
but it's a montage, baby.
Oh, it's a montage. And I can't help it. Alice dropped on the... Bless you. Or Gesundheit. Alice dropped on this slimy vehicle that's been raised from the bottom. It's got to be so slippery.
Oh, yeah. They talk about the smell pretty quickly and how much like mud and organic matter got kicked up and settled everywhere. So that's got to smell real funky.
They raised a permanent low tide. It would be... just take a fish tank and drain it. Smell that.
Smell it. Smells nice. Finger in, lick it. Tastes nice.
Anyway, they pop open the deep fathom, or I guess Al does, because we finally have a use for your favorite gorilla. And
yes.
He gets the hatch off, and there's like 6 inches of air at the top of the deep fathom that's completely filled with water.
Oh, yes.
And they find a leg, and it seems everyone's dead, but then the guy rolls over and says, not now, 3 more hours of sleep or something. It was like, I'm not working today.
Yes.
And everybody on the sub's okay. But then there's this huge montage of Dirk walking just from one end to the other, and it takes half an hour. And Clive just describes every part of the boat.
And he does it with brilliant words. I mean, he's very languid, and you can smell the barnacles.
Yeah. Smell it.
And you can hear like the orchestra rising in the background.
Yes, it is spooky, slimy, slippery. And Al is legitimately creeped out. He feels like he's in a tomb. Pitt, we are assured Pitt feels nothing. He's back to that emotion he had before, gone. Now he's back to being a full man with no emotions.
One cool thing happens, because at the end of the last episode, when Dirk got sent to England to have some impromptu shore leave with, was it Barlow? Anyway, the last surviving member of the Titanic crew, and he gets given this parcel, and the parcel was the White Star flag from the back of the Titanic. So Dirk flies the original Titanic flag on the Titanic once more, and like almost has another emotion, but then doesn't.
He thinks about it wistfully because it has to do with the man in the service, so that's allowed. Technically, that doesn't count. No emotion.
It's like a fallen soldier coming home, even if the fallen soldier's English.
Yeah, technically that counts. But other than a bit of the tour, we're told that a lot of debris has fallen. There's passages that are not passable, and a lot of
shit broke everywhere.
Paneling is just this thing is tore up from the ground up. It's a mess, and they make it a point to blame it on the paneling that has obstructed everything. It must have been Weber's grain paneling.
They can't get down to the hold because there's too much crap in all the stairwells. Sandecker lands on the Titanic. All the sea life is starting to rot now, so I assume there's legions of fish that have been living in the Titanic for decades now have all just died.
The smell's not going to improve. Remember that. This is it's vitreous, but every pore of this ship is impregnated with rot.
We need Febreeze. They find a few corpses, and Sandecker can tell one of them's a woman from the bones.
Yes, and they also bring up
he's good.
That linoleum was everywhere. And I'm like, oh, that was a fun fact even back in 1978 when he wrote this book. It was linoleum. That cheap stuff now.
Yeah, lino was like fancy as shit in the early 1900s. Lino.
It was the most decadent thing.
Yeah, you could have any pattern, any color. They just print it out for you. You can't believe it.
It could look like marble. Just throw a chandelier and some fur in there, and you can oppress a southern world nation.
When I was doing various jobs in the 2000s, you wouldn't believe how many times you would rip up old shitty lino and find hardwood underneath.
My aunt took up her carpet from the 80s and 90s, and it's beautiful hardwood. And in the end, she was right. She raised her kids and then got rid of the carpet. Her floors are beautiful.
That's what we did. Or basically, we didn't get rid of the kids, but we waited until they were no longer going to like just lay down with a Sharpie and draw on the carpet for no reason. Once they were old enough to have object permanence, we got rid of the carpet and put in some hardwood. We still got a lot of lino in the kitchen because, man, they're rough on the kitchen.
Yeah, everybody's rough on the kitchen. Even the adults. Let's be real. Nobody puts things. Everything's put away wet.
I just love when I come down in the morning and I know that my son has gotten a snack because there's just a trail of Frank's Red Hot from the fridge to the stairs.
Oh, can your son write cursive?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well,
so stop before him.
I mean, he can. Well, no, he learned how. I mean, his handwriting sucks either way, but he can write cursive. But he'll hit a letter and he'll blank on like, do I go forwards or backwards? And then he just like resumes printing. So like,
Fair enough.
I think all my kids learned cursive. I just don't think they have much use for it.
They don't teach it anymore where I am.
Yeah.
So
I think they stopped just after like my kids were doing it.
Oh, okay. That was a tangent. Jeez, that was a tangent to nowhere. Sorry about that. That was my that was my fault.
Well, that's okay. I think most of the people who would listen to this know exactly what we're talking about. We're not getting a lot of Zoomers on this podcast.
Yeah, so Sandecker's there, break out the booze.
Oh, yeah. They have the booze in a parlor scene where they discuss
They might have a problem.
All the intrigue.
Like, as a group. Can you be alcoholic together?
He was on an entire helicopter ride. He's going through the DTs right now.
It was from the nearby ship. It should be 2 minutes. What kind of DTs? Fast acting?
I figured he came from the mainland. Like mainland to ship and then to Titanic. Maybe.
Oh, okay. So
I don't know where Sandecker is.
Okay.
I did like that they got Scotch for all the main characters and then, Jack Daniels for all the workers.
Is that more blue collar, Jack Daniels? I thought Jack Daniels was supposed to be okay. But Scotch is supposed to be fancy. That stuff tastes like gasoline to me. I'm a gin and tonic girl.
This was the 1970s, so Jack might have been more blue collar, but the Scotch is Cutty Sark, which is like among my least favorite Scotches.
Oh.
That's bad Scotch now.
Okay, that's bad Scotch now.
I like my Johnny Walker. Like everything below Johnny Walker is gasoline. Johnny Walker's pretty good.
Okay, it looks wonderful. I wish I could.
Johnny Walker's where the good Scotch starts.
Oh, okay. That's good to know for gifting.
Yes.
Gin, you're gonna go find every time. It's cheap. You can buy it by the gallon.
I hate gin. My wife likes it.
Oh, gin is fantastic. Tell her I love her. I love you, Stephanie. Gin is right. You're right.
I'll pass that along.
Sandecker has to tell Pitt, you have to wait until New York City. You're not going to get the Byzanium.
Yeah.
And Pitt's like, oh, darn. Pitt pouts and stomps around for a bit. But then there's a water pump crisis. They can't get the water to leave as fast as it's coming in.
Yeah, because there are a bunch of tiny holes.
Sure. Naturally, I'm not going to blame the broad. She was underwater for 76 years.
Yeah. But they have to get down to the bottom of the Titanic in order to set the pumps up, or else the Titanic's just going to sink again, and they have like 3 hours.
In one functioning brain. Only one. We're led to believe that the only person who could solve this is Pitt, because he could think inside and outside the box.
Yes.
So he sees...
And he realizes...
You can go from the outside and fix the problem, because there's dimensions.
Yeah, because he realizes that they have a perfectly clear path all the way down to the engine rooms, and they're like, what the hell are you talking about? And all they have to do is cut the steel patch off the smokestacks.
The patch was J.B. Weld. That should be easy.
Yeah. And then you
just poke it.
And then you have a tube right down to the bottom, and they're like, oh, okay. They get the boat pumped out.
I feel like Cussler was just teasing you here with the minor victory.
Yeah.
Like, oh, minor problem, minor victory. It's solved. You feel better, right?
Minor problem, minor victory. And then Dirk stares at the storm on the horizon and goes, oh, that's a big storm. Because don't forget, the largest, most freak hurricane of the century is brewing.
Yes. In May, in the North Atlantic.
Hurricane Amanda, which we get name dropped in the next chapter.
180 miles per hour, which would be something.
Also, in the middle of the whole pump crisis, there was a one-sentence chapter with Secretary General Antonov and Prevlov, where Prevlov has to fast forward his plan, and the senior guys is like, there must be no international repercussions. It must look as though we were within our rights, and they discuss evil communist plotting and where to put the bodies. But it's real fast, and then boom, it's gone.
That was really fast. Prevlov has a plan to take the Titanic free and clear, murder everyone, declare salvage rights, essentially.
Is it? What kind of a country would murder people for billions of dollars?
What Dana told us once it's up, they're going to sell the curtains and the chandeliers and stuff. They're going to get all the money back.
Oh, hell yeah.
We're going to have a yard sale.
Someday in the future, there will be this website called eBay.
Yes. So chapter 56, the tugboats show up and everyone's happy.
Yes. We also find out, or the main characters find out, that they're about to get boned by a hurricane. And I had to do a bit of research on this. They say that it's an unbelievable hurricane. It's a force 15 on the Beaufort scale.
I've never heard of the Beaufort scale. Can you explain it?
The Beaufort scale is just the effective force of winds in a storm. But the Beaufort scale only goes up to 12 because 12 is total destruction.
So this is a setting your amp to 11 kind of deal?
There is no 13, 14, 15. 12 is the worst. 12 and up is the worst.
Maybe the weatherman is also a coach. You know how coaches are. Give 110%.
You will give 110%.
That's impossible. No one can give more than 100%. By definition, that is the most anyone can give.
This storm is going to give you 125% of total destruction.
Total destruction. Okay, so surpassing total destruction, hurricane in May, that's heading towards Newfoundland.
Yeah.
So it's going to hit them square. It's like, I really thought they were going to have a weather, pardon me, I can't think of anything. A weather weapon. Can you edit that and make me look smart?
Space lasers.
The word weapon went right out of my head. Yes. And sometimes people are blamed for those. I really thought the crux of the storm was the Soviets can control weather.
Oh, that would have been neat.
I thought that's where we were going with it's out of nowhere. It doesn't come in May. In Newfoundland, because they're supposed to be created further south and then boomerang up.
Yeah, by the time we get them in Newfoundland, they're usually they're back down the tropical storm.
I think Clive just had enough for Newfoundland in this book.
Fuck them Canadians.
Are they bad people, the Newfies? What are they known for?
Screech and talking funny.
Screech was a Newfie?
No. Screech is Newfoundland rum.
Oh, I was thinking Saved by the Bell.
Oh, Lord. They do not claim him. None of us claim him. But now we're getting back into the longer bifurcated chapters for some reason, because the first half of chapter 56 is the two super tugboats. They brag about the super tugboats. And then halfway through, it switches to Captain Korotkin on the Kharkov, which is the the Russian missile cruiser that's been watching this whole thing the whole time. A tiny airplane flies over and drops off Prevlov, who gets picked up, and he's like, I'm in charge of boat now. And I like the description from the captain's point of view that Prevlov was just too handsome. Don't forget, he's the Russian Dirk Pitt.
I don't know if I have met a man that was too handsome. It is a problem.
So handsome, he just makes you angry?
It made me confused. I was on a job, and he was hanging out in a room at Silvercup Studios, and he was just, a backup actor and male model. And he was so good looking, I forgot what I was doing. I'd never had that happen before.
I'm supposed to see you on TVs, not real life.
I'd never seen this person. It wasn't anybody who's famous now, but it's just a regular, I guess this is a comforting thought. There's thousands upon thousands of drop-dead gorgeous people just waiting to creep you out of nowhere.
They walk among us.
They'll pop
it's
out.
The weirdest jump scare ever.
And this guy was majestic. And then he spoke. And he was so dumb.
Excellent. Reaffirms your faith in humanity.
Then I was angry, and then I walked away. I'm like, is that how it should be? Is this a curse against nature? What is it? The whole thing had me confused. I'm not kidding. I was just like, I gotta get away from you.
You're messing with my worldview.
He was a nice guy. But it wasn't. It was reaffirming my worldview. Oh, stupid, but pretty. That's a toxic way to be. I didn't want that reaffirmed.
So we've got things compounding on top of other things now. We got, I believe, 4 chapters to go before we get to the end of this part. And I think I have a good spot for us to stop. But right now, we're into chapter 57. So the hurricane is arriving. All the boats have left. The helicopter with Dana and all the reporters has left. There's only the American missile cruiser and the tugboats around the Titanic. And, of course, that Russian boat that just keeps watching them.
Yes, and part of the plan, I don't know if it comes up right now, is as the storm closes in, the Russians are going to have an SOS signal go out for a vessel that's not there.
Yes, that plan is dropped in chapter 58, but yeah, basically
Okay.
we were...
This is when it's coming to fruition.
Yeah, but I do like how, well, one big thing happens in chapter 57. The helicopter lands on the Titanic to pick up, Dirk and everybody and get them off the Titanic, just because it's not really safe for them to be on the Titanic while it's being towed through a hurricane.
Oh, I forgot. I apologize. This is a very masculine part.
Uh-oh. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the
blood oath scene.
And they do that scene twice where the men are like, I'd rather die than leave the Titanic. And like everyone refuses to leave. Like, we can't possibly do this. And the helicopter pilot's like, well, that's good because somebody threw a fucking hammer at the rotors.
You lead with that. Lead with that. What are we talking about? You don't need all of this gravitas.
Yeah.
Because they're men of science. It's 180 miles per hour, they're being told. You leave.
Dirk goes through like 2 entire pages of Sherlock deduction and figures out that whoever threw the hammer wasn't on the Titanic. They were on the helicopter, which is very confusing. Like, he goes through a lot of 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional, 5D chess thinking to figure that out. But it also means that whoever threw the hammer and trapped the helicopter there is still on board. So he draws the silenced Colt 45 he has, because he never goes anywhere without a silenced pistol, and they check the cargo hold of the helicopter.
That's an indication of good character, right? That's an indication that he's a solid guy.
Yeah, he's always ready. And they check the cargo hold of the helicopter and find Dana Seagram unconscious.
She's all banged up.
She's back in the book.
She's back in the book. Becomes more confusing from here on out. She loses her mind. This is the beginning of her brain becoming pudding. But that's okay. Her husband's suicidal. She doesn't know about that. Her husband's in the DC area, about to off himself. You okay?
I can hear my family whispering. I think they're trying to be careful because I'm recording.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, but when they're whispering, I get suspicious.
Oh, yeah, because they're talking about you.
They're talking about cake. It's okay.
Oh, cake is great.
Yes. But yeah, then we bounce back over to the Russians. And I got a kick out of this because Korotkin, the captain on the boat, is talking about everything in military terms. And Prevlov is just using like business terms like hostile takeover, change of management. You're going to kill those Marines? Civilian crewmen.
Yeah, I don't think any Russian of that time would have batted an eye about like any of that. They would have been like, oh, killing has to be done? I saw World War II. This guy's not a newborn. He would have lived through some shit.
He's using like sleazy 70s businessman terms for all this. And I loved how Prevlov ends his whole plan with, of course the Americans will go for it. They never reject an appeal for help.
Which is right. Everyone likes to be a hero.
Yeah. I think legally they have to, like, because I was watching some news article about the various boats full of migrants, leaving North Africa, heading for Europe, leaving various parts of Central America and heading for North America. And how in like international waters, if you get a distress signal, you legally have to go help. If they have proof you got the signal and didn't help, you can be tried for crimes.
Yes, I believe the captain of the Carpathia was accused of getting the signal and ignoring it. The Titanic SOS. He lost his captainship. He was always blamed for that. He had a dark cloud over him the rest of his life, the captain of the Carpathia.
Yep. So in that sense, it is a good plan.
It is a good plan. It's interesting that it's the law that you have to rescue someone. Good law.
But yeah, their plan eventually boils down to kill everybody and then claim that they abandoned ship during the hurricane and just got lost somehow. And then they found the Titanic floating and, according to salvage rights, it's ours now.
It's the law of finders keepers.
Yep.
Oldest time. It's eye for an eye and then finders keepers.
As long as they kill everyone, the plan will be perfect.
Kill everyone and their dog. Oh no, we killed the dog in the first chapter. Paratkin, the captain of the research vessel that Prevlov is on, is just clutching his pearls.
Yes.
As if
he's just a nice guy.
He's like, I'm a scientist sailor where this is an outrage.
I'm the captain of a Russian missile cruiser. You can't expect me to
the most cynical
Americans.
Bastard. This guy would be smoking cigarettes made of dead babies. He would he wouldn't give a shit. In the 80s, forget about it.
I'm not sure I'd go that far, but I mean, in the 70s, in the 80s, for how much they hated Russia, yeah, probably. They've made a lot of Russians really reasonable in this book.
Well, it's also, Russia was devastated in World War II. That left a mark.
Oh boy, yeah.
So this book was written in the 70s. Got it. So this guy's in the future 10 years. He still would have been raised in a place that's rebuilding, that's hardship upon hardship. No luxuries, few gentle comforts. I don't think he would have been as precious about life.
I don't know how the timeline worked. I don't know how America saw Russia during the mid-70s. I know Cold War 80s, that was
Cold War 80s, we were told that
pretty well preserved in the films
terrible.
of the era that I watched. I don't know how they felt about him in the 70s, if they were just like, oh, those backwards Russians.
No, I'm not implying they're backwards, but they were devastated.
Oh, yeah.
Not backwards. Not backwards.
I'm not saying they were backwards. I'm saying that, they were thought of in the popular culture at the time, because I don't know how they were perceived in the 70s. I've seen every movie from the 80s. I know how the Russians were perceived in the 80s.
Oh, I don't think the North Americans thought of Russians until Yakov Smirnov. When I was a kid, I thought that was his name. I was like, oh. And then you get to be like...
What a wacky name.
Of drinking age, and you're like, hey, that's marketing.
Chapter 59 seems like Clive needed a breather and wanted to write something different, because it's from the point of view of the tugboat captain.
Yeah, and they're struggling with the lines.
Yeah.
Nothing's going right. The lines are tighter than they should be, and then slacker than they should be.
And they're moving around, and they can't see the Titanic because of the hurricane. They just know that it's behind them somewhere, but then it's next to them, and then it's on the other side. Like, everything's moving around funny. And I loved how the captain goes out in the hurricane and shouts at the Titanic to fuck off.
Well, I kind of sympathize with him. He can't do anything to it. It's scary. It's enormous, and it's creeping up on him.
Yeah. It's not where it should be.
Yeah, it's not where it should be, and he's kind of in charge of it. I'd go out and yell at the sky, too.
Have you ever read Douglas Adams' book, Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency?
I only practice holistic driving.
Excellent.
That's how you get where you're going. Follow someone, hope they know where they're going.
But the first part of that book is the part that I always remember, and it's the first part that made me laugh out loud reading that book, where he realizes that, odd things tend to happen around him. And I can't remember the exact context of how it leads up to it, but he was writing a test when he was in university, and he just completely guessed on all the answers and answered some of them wrong on purpose. And he still got 100% on it. And because he was accused of cheating, he was kicked out. So that chapter ends with him standing on the roof of the dorms, shaking his fist at the heavens and screaming, "Stop it."
Douglas Adams was a treasure, a world treasure.
Just angry at the universe for ruining your college education.
Douglas Adams, the world misses you.
Chapter 60 also starts off with one of my favorite lines in the book so far. Leave it to Dirk to pick up a dame in the middle of the ocean.
Now, that guy's... Who's that? Sandecker's right there. He found the girl, too. Sharesies?
And Dirk responds with, "It's a curse. Women are forever attracted to me when I'm in no mood to respond." We're now just repeating a lot of the beats out of the first book, because when him and Terry are kidnapped in the first book, Terry just starts making out with him for no apparent reason while there's guns pulled on them. And then Terry is the only woman on the first attempt for 3 entire chapters.
Yes. And now we have Dana.
And now we're about to get the exact same thing with Dana.
And she is a curse on the boat. It is. They say it's bad luck to have a woman on the boat, and she's a bad woman. She's a good woman with a bad head injury, and her hair is all messed up.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know how she got there.
The last thing she remembers was she dropped her makeup kit, and she was looking for it. Gosh, I must have fainted.
As you do when looking for a makeup kit. It's taxing. And you have to assume she's wearing a full corset, so she can't breathe because she's a lady.
Women be shopping and women be doing their makeup.
Yeah.
And then passing out.
She goes back for her makeup kit. Not her wallet. She can't just be a person. It has to be something frivolous.
Sorry, there's an alarm going off somewhere.
Okay. It has to be something completely frivolous. Her head she's really banged up. She doesn't remember anything. Luckily, Sandecker has enough booze to get her recuperated so she could talk a little bit. And she remembers white cowboy boots.
And I liked how Dirk orders Sandecker not to alert the mainland of what's going on, because Dirk can order his boss around. But the white cowboy boots...
It seems to be a codependent relationship. Sandecker is losing a lot of himself in Pitt. It's not healthy. They don't bring out the best in each other.
So Dirk knows that the cowboy boots belong to Ben Drummer, since he searched everyone's belongings over the course of this trip, which is illegal, but says it also couldn't have been Ben Drummer who hit her because he was on the Titanic. Like, he was in that room doing that whole blood oath thing when Dana got knocked out.
Yes, Drummer was in there bowing down to his Elven King, and there was no possibility for him to do it, so it's another mystery. Another mystery we'll have to just wait on tenterhooks for.
Yeah, but then they get a distress signal from a freighter to the south. So the Capricorn and the missile cruiser head off, leaving the Titanic and the tugboats completely alone. And then Dirk ends the chapter having to pee, which I don't think we ever get resolution on because it doesn't appear in the next chapter.
Maybe is he potty trained?
He hears a hurricane, he has to pee.
What's the sound of water? He's a mammal.
And then we get into the final chapter for this episode, chapter 61, which is a mega chapter because it has like 5 points of view and it's bouncing around between all the different parties in this book. Like, we're definitely getting to the action climax.
Yes. The president is on his way to the CIA director's office, so that the guys in the office have to get themselves together. We're told they're all wrinkled and disheveled. Jean's in there, probably still hungover.
And special note for that, sexy secretary number 8 gets them drinks when the president shows up. 8!
There must be an agency.
Washington's sexiest secretaries are waiting for you.
Oh, it would have been a 1-900 number? Just print the money. Yes, and. So it's a mid-afternoon. The president strolls in. He's like, before this meeting, I need a Bloody Mary.
It's first thing in the morning.
And he's briefed about the hurricane, and they get a warning. They get a transmission that the Titanic is adrift, and Dana is dead, and Seagram falls to pieces.
Because the cables were sheared from the tugboats.
Yes. They don't know how yet, because they haven't rolled them back in. But Seagram falls to pieces upon hearing the news that his wife is missing, presumed fallen overboard.
Yep.
And the other guys are standing around. Instead of being like, oh my God, his wife just died, they're like, oh, this is awkward. He's crying. Should we just stare at him?
He's having emotions. Help.
You, over there, pat his back.
Holy cow, you need more booze.
Holy smokes, you need booze.
Yes. And then we go back to the Titanic, and the tugboats are like, the rope is completely slack, and they wind it back in, and they see that it has been burnt.
Yes.
So it is confirmed. There is sabotage.
I would be interested to know exactly how those were cut with the acetylene torch, because they were under enough tension to pull the Titanic across the ocean.
It should have whipped around like a...
Do you know what those cables do? When
yes.
Suddenly there's no tension anymore.
In the messages.
I have seen some of those videos on YouTube where like a boat, like a huge super tanker, like loses its moorings one at a time, and the cable snaps and just like takes out a building. Years and years and years ago, when I first moved up here, one of my first field jobs, we had to go and do a whole bunch of surveying different mine sites for a potential mine location. But to get there, we had to cross a lake, and it was on a cable barge. And the barge operator was a one-legged, one-eyed former merchant marine.
Oh, that's not an indication that they were good at their job.
I think that was just...
That's
I mean, they could have been, very good at their job, just wrong place, wrong time.
Oh, sure. They could have caught a germ or whatever.
And I always wanted to ask.
You can't ask.
I know.
You can't.
But
you can't be like... My daughter's 6.
You have an eye patch and a peg leg. I'm sorry, I have questions.
My daughter's 6th grade, like concert chorus. They'll go there and sing, and it sounds like they're taking instruments and just tossing them down the stairs. But there was a kid who used crutches, and some adult yells out, "Who's the cripple? Why are you crippled?" That's a grown up to a child.
You can't just ask someone why they're crippled.
Much less shout it across an auditorium to a child. It's a classy world we live in.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, those, if that's under tension and cut, that would be a Saw. That would be chaos, violence, whipping around. Isn't there a horror movie where everybody gets cut in half by...
Yes, Ghost Ship, I believe.
That's it. And the only one that survives is the little girl because she was too short.
Yep.
But anyone who's listening...
Best scene in that movie, by the way.
It's the only scene I have seen. Hominos. Yay. It was a beautifully done scene. So this, you're right, this would be incredibly disastrous if it's cut under tension. But maybe it was slacking tension, so maybe it was cut under slack. Presumably, the saboteurs know what they're doing.
I hope so.
You want the best. It's Clive Cussler.
In the middle of a hurricane, after the cables have been broken, I'm not sure if anybody on the Titanic knows the cables are broken yet, because
it's unclear.
They're all off doing things. But Dirk is checking over every inch of the helicopter. Oh yeah, and it says that he's unaware the cables were gone. He finds
literal fog of war.
He finds Dana's makeup case wedged in the seat, and there's a whole description of exactly how it's wedged. And, like,
oh my God,
Dana couldn't get her makeup case out because, and I quote, very few women are blessed with the mechanical inclinations, and Dana certainly wasn't one of them. So he, moves the seat and picks it up, and he's like, see, I got the makeup case out. And,
then we don't know how much time she was there, dude. She could have been there 2 seconds, and then she was hit. She was bludgeoned. It wasn't like a fault. It's not because of a lack of competency. She was bending over to get something and somebody clocked her on the head. She's a lady. We have to introduce, clearly she's not mechanically inclined. She got a head injury.
She can't do engineering.
Yeah, she can't even pick up her purse with
what
the
an
makeup
idiot.
in it.
She was only handpicked by the president to be the face of this operation.
Get her makeup back. She needs it. That lady's 31.
Yes.
Ancient.
But because he's doing this in a Beaufort scale 15 hurricane, the winds buffet the Titanic, it rolls over, it bounces Pitt around like a pinball machine, then the helicopter rips all of its moorings out and falls off the boat with Dirk Pitt inside unconscious.
Unconscious. Another head injury because he's unconscious again. His skull has to be made of tapioca.
Either tapioca or it's just like a bowling ball. It's the most solid skull you've ever seen.
Well, there's in law.
It's a sort of Neanderthal thing.
You have to presume somebody's got an eggshell skull. So if you push them and they hit their head in the curb and they die, it's still your fault. You can't use I didn't know they had an eggshell skull. There's no presumption here. His head's made of whipped cream. He should get a special placard for parking. And after this injury, he should be relearning its colors. But it's Dirk Pitt, so he's only unconscious for a little bit. And we have to assume it's restorative. He never sleeps. He's only ever knocked out or passes out. So he's taking this, oh no.
Podcast goblins.
So the poodle died last week, which is why we got a new dog.
Oh, so I'm sorry.
No, it's
I didn't know that part of it.
What we do, we get older dogs, so our neighbors think we're monsters that recycle dogs all the time.
They've burned through 5 dogs this year.
Yes, I know it. And then
that is what my neighbor Peter does. He's gone through 10 dogs since I've known him, but he takes on 15-year-old sick dogs and just gives them great lives and plays with them all day because he's super old and retired and just has all these old gimpy dogs. He has one 3-legged dog at any given time.
That's fantastic.
He's great. He's retired. All he does is take care of dogs. He's wonderful.
He sounds wonderful. But I went there because my husband and my family was just a wreck. And they said, oh, hey, here's a poodle mix. But it's not a puppy. It's not an old dog. It's a puppy. It's only 8 weeks old. And they tell me it's a poodle mix. I'm like, this is not a poodle mix, but I'm willing to let it slide because I'm already in love. They just handed me a puppy.
That's how they get you.
They do. And then I bring it home and it says collie. It is not a collie. I think they just chose randomly from the drop-down box.
I mean, it's got weird curly fur. It's a poodle of some sort.
Yeah, it's an Irish wolfhound. It's
That's going to be a little bigger.
Going to be enormous. He's afraid of everything. All he wants to do is...
8 weeks old.
He's afraid of the stove. He's afraid of me closing doors.
He's afraid of soap?
The stove.
Stove, okay. You're still a bit glitchy, so...
Okay, I'm sorry. The stove, because it opens and closes like a big mouth. Mirrors freak him out. Oof.
Our dog at that age, because we also got her when she was about 8 weeks old, our dog at that age was afraid of the rocking chair.
Oh.
So it would, if it moved, would bark at it, and then got her revenge by just gnawing the hell out of it.
Good for her.
Half the wood was gone before she sort of grew out of that.
Kill that rocking chair.
Fuck you, rocking chair.
Some rocking chairs need to die. And my in-laws were very excited about the puppy, and my mother-in-law lost her dog last year. So upon seeing the puppy, she said, I want a puppy. So Monday, I drove 200 miles, we got her a puppy, because she needed a particular puppy because they're old. They're not going to get a Irish Wolfhound. That will break them. Because they get knocked over once, that's it. So they got the tiny little thing. And you have to drive far for a particular tiny thing. You can't just pick those up anywhere. They're not at the pound. The pound has the olden dogs and ginormous pit bulls.
Yeah.
But I got to see her with a brand new puppy, and it was so much fun. She was like a little girl. She was like, I got to... She bought it. I just was the wheelman. And my father-in-law grumbled the whole time. He was like, I don't want a dog. I don't want a dog. He's in love with the dog. It took him 2 seconds.
There's so many memes about it's the dad who doesn't want the dog and the family does, and how within like a couple of weeks, the dad and the dog have matching sweaters and they're inseparable.
Oh, he doesn't let the dog touch the ground.
Aw.
He is such a pushover when it comes to dogs. It's fantastic. I hope they're with us for a long time, because boy, were they not happy after their dog died last year.
Yeah. And we got ours through the Humane Society as a rescue, because the mom was like really old and really messed up. Like there was so much wrong with the mom, but there were 4 puppies that seemed healthy and needed homes because the mom wasn't going to make it.
Oh, that's sad.
So they came to our house, they did all the paperwork, and they like brought the puppy with. And I think they knew what was going to happen when you bring a puppy that desperately needs a home to a house with 3 kids.
They kind of know.
Like we were basically saying how, like, we're not sure, we'll have to think it over. And then my youngest pokes his head in and goes, the dog's name is Pippi, and then runs back out again. Like, okay, so the dog's name is Pippi and it's ours now.
She was all about, I'm not sure, I have to really look at the dog and see if they handed her the puppy, which is, it's going to stay small. It's a teacup nonsense, something or other.
Okay.
And she was like, oh, she already had a name. The second she was holding it, she named it. I'm like, oh, we're done here. But the pound, I was in and out in 5 minutes. The place where she's buying it, she put down her card. She's like, charge it. She's a woman of an age that you're not going to argue with her. Charge it. Yeah. Let's go. It took 4 hours. Anyway, how was your week?
Good.
Oh, okay.
No, it was fine. My wife was out of town. The house has been getting ravaged by a cold, so it's just been everyone getting sick for a couple of days at a time.
Oh, happy back to school season. Well, my family just came home, so I have to bid you adieu.
Okay.
All right. See you later.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone. See you later.
Good night.
This has been Cussler Hustlers. Your hosts have been Topper and Nancy. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at Cussler Hustlers.